Before you hear this story, I want you to understand something. This isn't just a story about technology or betrayal or even crime. It's a story about how easily trust can be used against us, especially when it comes from someone we love. We're taught to watch out for strangers, for loud threats, for obvious danger. But no one prepares you for the kind that arrives with a smile, a gift, and good intentions on the surface. As you listen, don't rush to judge the characters in this story. Instead, ask yourself one question. What would I have done if this were happening to me? My name is Ray. I'm 56 years old, and I discovered my own stepdaughter was trying to take over my life while we sat across from each other in a bank conference room. Between us lay a pair of white earbuds, small and harmless looking, yet heavy with meaning, like a loaded weapon no one had fired yet. The room was dead silent, broken only by the faint hum of an air vent above me. Megan kept talking, her voice sharp, rushed, defensive, but I wasn't really hearing her anymore. My eyes stayed on those earbuds. Cheap plastic, streaked with fingerprints. The same ones she'd wrapped in birthday paper and mailed to me with a smiley face on the card. Just 3 days earlier, I'd believed they were nothing more than a thoughtful gift. Realizing the truth felt like the ground shifting under my feet. To understand how I got there, I need to go back. I live in Toledo, Ohio, on the quiet side of town, where every house looks like it came from the same tired 1970s blueprint. Aluminum siding, short driveways, lawns that turn brown every August, no matter how much water you pour into them. I work as a facility supervisor at St. Nan's Regional Hospital, which is really just a polite way of saying I keep the place from falling apart. Boilers, vents, doors that refuse to close. I've been there for 22 years, long enough to fade into the background, the kind of person people don't notice until something breaks. That Tuesday was my 56th birthday. No big plans. Elaine, my wife, forgot until noon. That hurt more than I let on. At work, the guys in maintenance surprised me with a sheet cake from Kroger and one of those cards everyone signs, but nobody really reads. Someone wrote, "Don't die on us in blue ink." I laughed. "You're supposed to." I told them I'd gotten a package that morning from Megan. That raised a few eyebrows. Megan is Elaine's daughter from her first marriage. She's 32, sharp as a tack, always in a hurry. We've never been close, but we've been civil. That morning, seeing my name in her handwriting felt nice, unexpected, like maybe I mattered more than I thought. Inside the box were white wireless earbuds. Nothing fancy, no brand I recognized. A note said, "Thought these might make work a little easier. Happy birthday, Ray." I brought them to work the next day, still feeling that small, warm surprise in my chest. During lunch, I pulled them out to show the guys. Bob joked that at my age I should be buying a walker, not earbuds. Dennis leaned over the table and asked if he could see them. Dennis Brody is about my age. Worked Army signal back in the day before landing in hospital maintenance. Quiet guy notices things. He turned one earbud over in his fingers, then the other. He didn't smile, didn't joke. His face drained so fast it was like someone had pulled a plug. "Ray," he said, lowering his voice, "where'd you get these?" "My stepdaughter," I said. "Why?" He swallowed, looked around the break room. "You need to take these to the police." I laughed, reflex. "What? You think she put a bomb in them?" Dennis didn't laugh back. "I think they've been messed with, and not in a good way." Something in my stomach dropped. Not fear yet, just that cold sense you get when a machine makes a noise it shouldn't. I stuffed the earbuds into my jacket pocket and finished my sandwich without tasting it. That night, Toledo was locked in one of those gray winter spells where the sky presses down on you. Snow along the curb was black with road salt. My boots crunched as I walked to the car. At home, Elaine was watching TV. I almost told her, almost, but I didn't want to sound crazy. I didn't want to accuse her daughter of something I couldn't even explain yet. The next morning, I drove to the Lucas County Police Precinct on my lunch break. The waiting area smelled like burnt coffee. A TV in the corner played the weather. When the detective Harris, his badge said, came out, he looked like a man counting days to retirement. They didn't ask many questions. They took the earbuds into a back room. I sat alone, listening to my own breathing. After a while, I heard a faint electronic sound through the wall, a steady beep, beep, beep. Harris returned with another man this time, younger, sharp, the kind of quiet tech you could tell missed nothing. Without a word, Harris placed the earbuds on the table between us, the way a prosecutor sets down evidence in a courtroom. "These aren't standard," he said. "They've been modified. Audio capture, location data." My mouth went dry. "So, someone could hear me?" I asked. Harris didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at me and asked, "Where do you usually wear them?" The answer landed harder than the question. At home, in the car, on my walks, during phone calls with my friend Frank about retirement, with my insurance agent, about money, about my health, about everything that mattered. "Don't confront anyone," Harris said. "Act normal." Normal. That was the hardest part. Driving back to work, my hands trembled on the steering wheel. I thought about Megan's neat handwriting, her warm smile at Thanksgiving, how effortless it is to hurt someone who wants to trust you. That night, I set the earbuds on the kitchen counter and stared at them. Small, harmless looking, like they couldn't possibly change a life, but something already had. I didn't yell. I didn't call anyone. I didn't accuse. I took a slow breath and decided to listen. I barely slept. I kept waking up convinced I heard static, breathing, a faint click that didn't belong to the house. Elaine slept facing away from me, the blue glow of the clock flashing 2:14, then 3:02, then 4:37. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those earbuds sitting on the cold metal table at the precinct. By morning, the fear had settled into something heavier, not panic, not rage, but a cold, steady focus. The kind I'd only felt a few times before, during a January boiler failure or when a pipe burst above the ICU. Moments when everything is on the line and losing your head only makes it worse. At work, I went through the motions, checked air handlers, signed off on a work order, joked with Bob about the Browns blowing another season. It all felt like a performance. Near the loading dock, Dennis caught my eye. He didn't say a word, just nodded once, like he knew something I didn't. At lunch, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Mr. Keller," the voice said, "this is Detective Harris." I stepped outside into the cold, the wind cutting straight through my jacket. "We ran a deeper check," Harris said. "Those modifications weren't random. Whoever did this knew exactly what they wanted." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means they weren't just listening for gossip." I leaned against the brick wall. Snow rattled across the pavement. Harris explained it carefully, like he was talking to someone his own age. The earbuds weren't illegal by themselves. The problem was how they'd been altered and paired. They could activate without me touching them. Stream audio, ping location. "Think of it like this." He said, "Someone wanted a window into your routines." My routines. I pictured myself in the car, talking out loud about numbers I'd never written down, and about how much the house was worth now, about the insurance policy I'd updated after my last physical, and about how sometimes when I stood up too fast, the room tilted. "Why?" I asked. There was a pause on the line. "That's the part we can't answer yet." After work, I drove home slow, passing the same strip malls I'd passed 1,000 times. Menards, Duncan, a place selling mattresses with banners promising no credit, no problem. I wondered how many people walked into traps smiling. Elaine was in the kitchen when I got home sorting mail. She looked tired. I almost told her everything. The words were right there. Instead, I asked casually, "Did Megan call today?" Elaine shook her head. "No, why?" "No reason." That night I did something that made my stomach twist. I took the earbuds out of the drawer and put them on. They fit easily, light, comfortable. That almost made it worse. I walked through the house talking out loud like I always had about the furnace, about dinner, about how the neighbor's dog wouldn't shut up. Then I sat at the kitchen table and said, clear as day, I should really look into changing my beneficiary. I waited. Nothing happened. Of course not. Whoever was listening wasn't sitting in my kitchen. The next morning, Megan texted Elaine, "How's Rye feeling? He sounded tired last time we talked." Elaine frowned at the screen. "That's odd," she said. "I haven't talked to her in a week." My chest tightened, slow and deliberate. At the precinct later that afternoon, Harris listened while I told him everything. The text, the timing, the earbuds. He didn't look surprised. He just leaned back in his chair and folded his hands. "Here's what I need you to understand," he said. "If you confront her now, she'll deny it. Maybe cry, maybe flip it around on you, and then whatever she's planning, she'll take underground." "So, what do I do?" I asked. "You observe," he said. "You document, and you let people show you who they are." I sat there staring at the scuffed linoleum floor. 56 years old, and suddenly my life felt like a case file. In the parking lot, I stayed in my car for a long time. Thought about all the conversations I'd had without thinking. How easy it is to give pieces of yourself away when you assume the room is empty. When I got home, I put the earbuds back on the counter. Elaine picked one up, smiling. "Cute little things," she said. "Megan really surprised you." "Yeah," I said she did. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision that scared me almost as much as the truth. If someone wanted to listen to me so badly, I was going to give them something worth hearing. The next morning, I put the earbuds on before I even poured my coffee. That was the hardest part to admit to myself later. Not that I wore them, but that a part of me wanted to. Curiosity mixed with fear has a way of doing that. Like touching a wire, might still be live. I didn't play music. I didn't make calls. I just let them sit in my ears while I moved around the kitchen, letting the house wake up with me. The old refrigerator hummed. The furnace clicked on and off. Elaine patted down the hallway in her socks. "Morning," she said. "Morning," I answered, steady as I could manage. I kept my voice normal. That took effort. I've worked around machines long enough to know that panic shows in the smallest vibrations. Same with people. At work, I treated it like a system test. That's what made it feel manageable. Boilers, vents, cameras. You don't accuse them of breaking. You test inputs and observe outputs. At 10:30, I walked the mechanical floor and said out loud, "Frank says the Florida timeshare might finally sell. If it does, I'll roll it straight into a trust. Probably makes sense." I said it like I was talking to myself, because I often do. At noon, nothing happened. At 2, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. This time, it wasn't Harris. It was Megan. "Hey Ray, random question. Are you still thinking about selling that place in Florida?" Mom mentioned it once and it got me thinking. My hands went cold, but my face stayed calm. I typed back slowly. "Maybe still figuring things out." I set the phone down and went back to work. Fixed a door closer on the 3rd floor. Signed off on an inspection sheet. Drank bad coffee from a paper cup. The world didn't end. That somehow made it worse. That evening, Megan showed up at the house with a container of soup. Elaine was surprised. So was I. "I was in the area," Megan said, smiling too wide. "Thought I'd check on you." "I'm fine," I said. She tilted her head. "Mom said you sounded tired lately." Elaine shot me a look. "I didn't say that." Megan waved it off. I just worry, that's all. You know, at your age. There it was. Soft, casual, wrapped in concern. We ate in the kitchen. Megan watched me more than her food. Asked if I'd been dizzy, if work was stressful, if I was keeping up with my appointments. I answered honestly where I could, vaguely where I couldn't. All the while I could feel the earbuds warm against my ears like they were alive. That night, after she left, Elaine said she's just trying to be nice. I know, I said, but I didn't believe it anymore. Over the next 2 days, I kept feeding the line carefully. I talked about changing beneficiaries, about maybe needing help with paperwork, about how my memory wasn't what it used to be. Each time Megan reacted, sometimes within hours, sometimes the next day, a text, a call, a just checking in. Once I pushed it too far, I told the empty car with the earbuds on that I'd almost forgotten to pay the electric bill. That scared me. I shouldn't have said it. Fear makes you sloppy. That evening, Elaine asked, "Did you pay the electric?" I froze. "Of course," I said. "A second too late." She frowned. "Megan mentioned something about you forgetting bills." There it was, proof. And something else. Elaine was in the middle of it, whether she knew it or not. I didn't sleep that night, not from fear, but from the weight of what I was doing. Lying on purpose, manipulating my own family. I kept telling myself it was necessary. That didn't make it feel clean. The next morning, I sang. I sang loud and off-key an old John Denver song Dennis used to hum. I did it while checking the mail, while tying my boots, while walking down the driveway. I sounded ridiculous. At noon, Megan called. "Ray," she snapped, irritation slipping through the mask. "Are you okay?" I smiled alone in the maintenance office. She hadn't asked if she'd asked how. That was when I knew this wasn't about curiosity. It wasn't about care. It was about control. And the longer I let her listen, the more rope she gave herself. Still, doubt crept in at night. I worried about what I was becoming, about whether winning would cost me whatever was left of my marriage, about whether I'd recognize myself when this was over. But every time I hesitated, I thought about those earbuds on the table at the precinct, about how easy it would have been to keep wearing them, never knowing I wasn't the mouse anymore. I just had to figure out what trap she was building and how to spring it without losing my footing. I didn't find the paperwork all at once. It came to me the way bad news usually does, piece by piece, when you're not looking for it, when your guard is down just enough to let it hurt. It started with the mail. A plain white envelope from our bank sat on the kitchen counter one evening, half hidden under grocery coupons and a flyer for a church fish fry. Elaine hadn't opened it yet. She never opened the bank mail. That was always my thing. Inside was a notice asking me to confirm an upcoming appointment regarding a home equity review. I stared at the date. I hadn't scheduled anything. When I asked Elaine about it, she hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. "Oh," she said, "Megan asked if you'd talked to the bank lately. She said maybe they were reaching out because of interest rates." That was all she said. Then she turned back to the sink. I didn't push. Not yet. The next morning before work, I went down to the basement. The furnace was rattling again, and that gave me a reason, at least on the surface. While I was down there, I opened the old filing cabinet we'd had since the 90s, the one with the bent drawer and the smell of dust and cardboard. Insurance papers, tax returns, manuals for appliances we no longer owned. Then I saw something that didn't belong. A thin folder, newer, too clean. Inside were printed documents, templates, really headings in bold. Legal language that looked official without quite being official. Words jumped out at me like warning lights. Power of attorney, capacity evaluation, guardianship petition. My hands went numb. I sat on the basement steps and read every page slowly, Notes in the margins written in Megan's handwriting. Short, efficient phrases. Dad forgets dates. Confused about finances. Doctor visit soon. Doctor visit. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. About taking away my right to speak for myself and replacing it with paperwork and a smile. I thought about the earbuds again, about the things I'd said while wearing them, about how easy it would be to clip together a story of decline if you had enough audio to cherry pick from. Upstairs, Elaine called down, asking if I'd found the problem with the furnace. In a minute, I said. My voice echoed back at me, steadier than I felt. That afternoon, I drove to the bank on my lunch break. The lobby smelled like carpet cleaner and burnt coffee. I didn't accuse, I asked questions, polite ones, the kind you ask when you don't want anyone to know how close you are to the edge. The loan officer, a young guy with a tight smile, confirmed that someone had called asking about my eligibility for a home equity line. Not me, a woman, said she was helping her stepfather manage things. Did she have authorization? I asked. He shifted in his chair. She mentioned you were considering granting it. Mentioned, not provided. That was enough. I went back to work, shut my office door, and called Detective Harris. He listened, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he let out a slow breath. This isn't uncommon, he said. What makes it dangerous is the timing. Audio surveillance plus guardianship paperwork is a bad combination. So, what do? I asked. You keep doing exactly what you're doing, he said, and you don't sign a thing. That night, Megan came over again. She brought dessert this time, store-bought, smiling. Mom said you found some paperwork, she said lightly, as if she were talking about a recipe. I was just trying to help get things organized. You know, for the future. The future? I repeated. She nodded. At our age, it's smart to plan. Our age. I looked at Elaine. She wouldn't meet my eyes for a moment. Just one. I wanted to end it, lay everything out, tell them I knew, tell Megan to get out. Instead, I nodded. Planning makes sense. Megan relaxed just a little. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat in the car with the earbuds in and talked about scheduling a doctor's appointment, about memory tests, about wanting someone with me in case I forget something. I hated every word. The next morning, Megan texted, I can go with you if you want. It might be easier. There it was. The trap almost closed. I sat in the hospital parking lot, engine off, listening to the wind push snow across the pavement. I thought about the day Megan called me Dad for the first time, about teaching her to drive in the same lot years ago, my hands tight on the door handle while she jerked the wheel. I trusted her then. Trust doesn't die all at once. It leaks out slowly like heat through a cracked window until you're cold and don't remember when it happened. I texted back, thanks, let me check my schedule. Then I called Harris. I think I know where this is going, I said, and I think I can prove it. Careful, he said. This is the part where people make mistakes. I knew he was right, because even as the net was tightening around Megan, it was tightening around me too. One wrong word, one signature, one moment of anger, and I'd be exactly where she wanted me. I took the earbuds out and placed them on the passenger seat. Small, white, silent. They weren't stealing my mind. Not yet. The hardest part wasn't pretending to be confused. The hardest part was pretending to be calm. Every instinct I had told me to confront Megan, to put the papers on the table and ask her what kind of person plans to erase another human being with forms in fine print. But Detective Harris had been clear. Anger would only make me sloppy. Sloppy would make me lose. So I slowed everything down. At work, I stuck to routines, checked the boilers at the same times, walked the same quarters, ate lunch in the same break room chair with the cracked vinyl. I let the earbuds sit in my pocket most days, but I wore them just often enough to keep the illusion alive. I talked to myself more in the car. I mentioned being tired. In the garage, I muttered about paperwork giving me a headache. Once standing in the basement, I said out loud that I was glad Elaine handled most things now. Each sentence tasted bitter. Each one felt like sandpaper on my pride. The responses came quickly. Megan texted reminders, offered rides, asked if I'd thought about making things official so she could help more. Her language was careful, but it was always pointed in the same direction, towards signatures, appointments, authority. Elaine grew quieter. One evening while we were folding laundry, she said, "Megan's just worried. You don't have to be so stubborn." That word stubborn cut deeper than she knew. I almost told her everything right then, almost pulled the folder from the drawer and laid it on the bed between us. My mouth opened. Then she added, "She says you forget things sometimes." I closed my mouth. Instead, I nodded. Maybe I do. That was the moment I nearly lost control. I drove to the hospital parking lot after dinner and sat there in the dark, engine running, watching my breath fog the windshield. I thought about all the years I'd worked to keep that place running, all the systems I'd learned by heart. No one called me forgetful when the heat stayed on in February. I called Dennis. "I need you to tell me if I'm crazy," I said. He didn't hesitate. "You're not." Dennis helped me do what I couldn't do alone. Organize dates, times, messages. He showed me how to save everything in multiple places, how to print out logs so they couldn't be lost. He reminded me to write things down by hand because juries and banks still trust ink. "People your age get dismissed," he said gently. "Paper keeps you from disappearing." The next setback came from the police. A younger officer, Harris, looped in, took a look at the situation, and shrugged. "Looks like family drama," he said. "No money's actually been taken yet." That night, I punched the steering wheel hard enough to make my knuckles ache. It took everything in me not to drive straight to Megan's apartment and blow the whole thing open. That was my mistake. I called her instead. Not angry, just too direct. "Megan," I said, "why are you talking to the bank about my house?" There was a pause, a long one. "I'm just trying to help," she said. "Mom asked me to." The line went dead. I sat there, heart pounding, knowing I'd said too much. For the next 2 days, nothing happened. No texts, no calls, no surprise visits. The silence was worse than the pressure. I was certain I'd tipped her off and lost my chance. Then the email came from Megan. Subject line, "Next steps." She wrote about scheduling a meeting at the bank, about how it would be less stressful if we all sat down together. She attached a list of documents she suggested I bring. At the bottom, almost as an afterthought, she added, "I talked to Mom. She agrees this is for the best." That was it. The proof Harris needed. I forwarded everything to him and to the bank's fraud department. This time, they listened. The tone changed. Meetings were scheduled, not the kind Megan expected. Elaine cried when I told her the truth. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears that soaked into her sweater. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I didn't think. I know I said and I meant it, but knowing didn't undo the damage." The night before the bank meeting, I barely slept. Not from fear this time, but from the weight of what was coming. Public things have a way of changing people forever. In the morning, I dressed carefully. Clean shirt, old coat, nothing dramatic. I put the earbuds in my pocket one last time. I wasn't going to need them anymore. The conference room at Great Lakes Community Bank was smaller than I expected. No courtroom drama, no wood paneling, just a long laminate table, a wall-mounted TV that wasn't turned on, and a pot of coffee that had been sitting there long enough to burn. The kind of room where people sign papers they don't fully understand and convince themselves it's fine. Megan arrived first. She wore a gray blazer and carried a leather, folder-like armor, confident, focused. She didn't look at me when I came in, just nodded like we were co-workers waiting on a meeting to start. Elaine came in last. She looked smaller somehow. Tired, she sat beside Megan, hands folded tight in her lap. I took the chair across from them and set my coffee down. I didn't say a word. The bank investigator, Linda Morales, introduced herself. Calm voice, professional smile. Detective Harris sat off to the side, notebook closed, observing. Linda slid a stack of papers onto the table. Not toward me, toward Megan. Before we begin, Linda said, we need to clarify a few things. Megan smiled. Of course. Linda tapped the top page. These emails, these calls, this appointment request, you initiated them, correct? Megan nodded. I was helping my stepfather. He's been overwhelmed. She glanced at me just long enough to sell the story. I took a sip of coffee. It was terrible. Linda continued. You claim Mr. Keller was considering granting you financial authority? Yes, Megan said. We've talked about it. That's interesting, Linda replied, turning a page. Because Mr. Keller hasn't signed anything, and yet you requested information typically reserved for authorized agents. Megan's smile tightened. I was just gathering options. Harris leaned forward for the first time. Options usually don't include misrepresenting someone's mental capacity. The word capacity landed hard. Elaine looked up. What? Linda slid another document forward. The guardianship templates, the notes in the margins, photocopies, clean, labeled. Elaine's breath caught. Megan, what is this? Megan's face flushed. Mom, it's not what it looks like. I set my coffee down and finally spoke. It looks like paperwork, I said. Paperwork meant to replace me. The room went quiet. Linda pressed a button on a small recorder. There's more. She played an audio clip. My voice filled the room slightly, shaky, confused, talking about forgetting appointments, about needing help. Megan's eyes widened. Where did you get that? Linda didn't answer. Harris did. From the device you gave him. The earbuds were placed on the table, right in the center for a moment. Nobody moved. Megan stood up. This is ridiculous. He's twisting things. He hates me. He's always hated me. I stayed seated. I don't hate you, I said. I trusted you. That did it. Megan's composure cracked. Words spilled out fast, defensive, angry. She talked about stress, about debt, about how hard it was to watch someone decline, about how she was only trying to protect her mother. Elaine stared at her like she was seeing a stranger. Harris let her talk. Then he said quietly, You altered a device to monitor him. You contacted financial institutions under false pretenses, and you prepared legal documents to assume control without consent. Megan laughed, sharp and brittle. You can't prove intent. Linda slid one final printout across the table, an email Megan had sent 2 days earlier. Once he signs, everything gets easier. He won't even realize what he's losing. The words sat there black on white. Elaine covered her mouth. Megan's shoulders sagged. Just a little. Enough. No one raised their voice. No one needed to. Linda closed her folder. This matter is being referred for further investigation. Any attempt to contact Mr. Keller regarding his finances or health will be considered interference. Harris stood. Miss Keller, I'd like you to come with me. Megan looked at me, then really looked. You did this, she said. I met her eyes, calm, tired. No, I said, you did. She was let out without handcuffs, but the room felt heavier after she left, like the air had been sucked out. Elaine cried quietly. The kind of crying that doesn't ask for comfort. I didn't touch her. I gathered my coat. The earbuds were still on the table. I picked them up, turned them over once, and set them back down. As I reached the door, I stopped. "You should have just bought me a cake," I said. Then I walked out. Outside, the wind cut through the parking lot. Snow drifted against the curb. I stood there for a moment, breathing it in. For the first time in days, my hands were steady. The house felt different when I got home. Same walls, same couch with the sagging cushion, same ticking clock in the kitchen that I'd been meaning to replace for years. But the air was lighter, like a window had finally been opened after a long winter. Elaine didn't come home that night. She stayed with her sister across town. I didn't stop her. We both needed space to sit with what had happened, to understand what couldn't be unsaid or undone. I made myself a simple dinner: soup from a can, crackers. I ate standing at the counter, listening to the furnace kick on and off, feeling the quiet settle into my bones. Not the scary kind of quiet, the honest kind. The next few weeks moved slowly but clearly. I met with a lawyer, updated my documents, changed passwords I didn't even remember setting. I closed accounts, opened new ones, and learned how much of modern life runs on trust you never think to question. Detective Harris checked in once. The investigation was ongoing, he said. He didn't promise outcomes he never had, but his tone told me enough. At work, life went back to normal, or as normal as it ever gets in a hospital. Boilers still broke, doors still stuck. People still assumed the building just worked on its own. I didn't mind. Dennis slapped me on the shoulder one morning and said, "You okay?" I nodded, getting there. He smiled. That was enough. Ela and I talked eventually, not all at once, not in a single dramatic conversation, just bits and pieces over coffee, over folded laundry, over the things you still have to do, even when your heart's been shaken. She cried again. She apologized again. I listened, but I didn't rush forgiveness. At our age, you learn the difference between ending something and allowing it to change shape. Some things shatter completely. Others bend, warp, and never quite return to what they were. I stopped using wireless earbuds after that. It may sound small, but to me it wasn't. I went back to the old wired kind, the ones that knot up in your pocket and tug sharply if you step too far from your phone. They're inconvenient, but honest. They remind you that you're connected and that every connection has a limit. Late at night, I still think about how close I came to signing a single piece of paper that would have erased me without a sound. No shouting, no confrontation, just forms, signatures, and a story written behind my back. That's the part that still stays with me. Not the money, not even the betrayal. It's how quietly it all could have ended. I used to believe danger announced itself, with raised voices, slammed doors, obvious warning signs. What I learned at 56 is that sometimes it arrives wrapped in birthday paper, with a smile and a note that says, "Happy birthday, Rye." If you're listening to this and thinking, "That could never happen to me," I used to believe that too. I was careful, responsible, the guy who fixed things for everyone else. All it took was one gift I didn't question. So here's what I'll leave you with. Trust your instincts. Pay attention when something feels off, even, especially, when it comes from someone you love. Ask questions. Take notes. Don't be ashamed to protect yourself. If this story leaves you feeling uneasy, that's not an accident. Real life doesn't always give us clear villains or dramatic warnings. Sometimes the greatest threats don't shout, they whisper. The lesson here isn't to live in fear or to stop trusting people altogether. It's to stay aware, to listen to your instincts, to slow down when something feels off, even if you can't explain why. Protecting yourself is not selfish. Asking questions is not rude. Taking your time is not weakness. Strength is paying attention when silence feels too convenient. And if this story reminded you of someone you know or of yourself, don't keep it to yourself. Talk about it. Share it. Because these situations survive in secrecy, but they fall apart in the light. And remember, your life, your name, and your peace are worth protecting. Thank you for watching this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly value every story and every voice. Don't forget to subscribe to Voices of Uncle Bernard and share this video with your friends.